This video didn't appear by accident. It appeared because something inside you just crossed a threshold. Not everyone finds this message. Not everyone is meant to. Thoth doesn't whisper into distracted minds or reveal himself to those still hypnotized by noise. He arrives only at the moment the soul begins to remember, not through fleeting thought, but through resonating frequency. And if these words are reaching you now, it's not solely because of an algorithm. It's because a pattern inside you is shifting, aligning, unlocking. There are ancient truths that don't belong solely to the past, but to those who are vibrantly ready. And readiness isn't merely a decision, it's a palpable vibration. That means this moment isn't random, it's profoundly precise. You didn't just click a video, you crossed a line you didn't consciously know you were standing on. A deeper intelligence, older than time itself but pulsing vibrantly through it, has been patiently waiting for this very signal from within you, because when the soul is ready, the real learning doesn't tentatively begin. The remembering powerfully does. There's a moment unseen, unmarked, when something quietly inside you begins to stir, not a loud, dramatic awakening, but a subtle, persistent shift. You start to genuinely question things you once automatically accepted. Familiar patterns begin to feel inexplicably heavier. The relentless noise of the world grows louder, but strangely, it no longer deeply moves you, no longer fully captivates. It's in this liminal space between discontent and dawning clarity that the old teachings begin to subtly surface, not imposed from outside by others, but organically blossoming from within. And it's here that Thoth resonates, not merely as a distant figure from fading myth, but as a vibrant, living symbol, a powerful bridge, a vital voice seamlessly connecting the invisible and the manifest realms. Thoth, scribe of the gods, doesn't intrusively knock. He patiently waits. He attentively watches. He intently listens to the subtle frequency vibrating behind your actions, not just the superficial words you outwardly express. He doesn't superficially choose by intellect, fleeting charisma, or worldly status. He profoundly chooses by deep, resonant resonance. And when your inner resonance subtly shifts, when it starts to harmoniously hum in alignment with a deeper, more profound order, that's when he gently reveals what was always inherently there, awaiting discovery. You may not have consciously noticed the subtle change, but it's already indelibly happened. The persistent thoughts you've been having, the underlying restlessness, the gnawing sense that something fundamental in life has been staged, rehearsed, ultimately hollow. That's not random confusion, it's potent contact. It's the initial ripple of ancient remembrance gently brushing up against the fragile edges of your rigidly programmed identity. You were never fundamentally meant to permanently stay trapped in that limited version of yourself. It was merely temporary scaffolding, transient, ultimately necessary only until you were profoundly ready to bravely start breaking it all down. The timeless teachings of Thoth are not superficially transmitted through static books or ornate temples. They are organically triggered, and what profoundly triggers them isn't mere information or rote data, it's authentic, heartfelt readiness. You've now reached the vibrational threshold that actively activates the dormant memory. That's precisely why this specific video didn't mysteriously show up months ago or even years ago. It wasn't yet the divinely appointed time, not because the time hadn't abstractly come in the observable world outside you, but because it authentically hadn't yet powerfully come alive within you. Ancient traditions across cultures and timelines all intimately knew this pivotal moment. The ancient Greeks elegantly called it gnosis. The ancient Egyptians powerfully called it the opening of the mouth. In both profound cases, it symbolically meant the exact same transformative thing. The physical body consciously becoming a sacred vessel of awakened speech, no longer shallowly speaking merely from the limited ego, but profoundly speaking from deep, authentic alignment, from powerful inner precision. A mouth that profoundly speaks not to merely convince or selfishly manipulate, but to genuinely create and powerfully transform. That's the fundamental shift you're actively moving purposefully through. It's profoundly why nothing superficially feels quite right anymore. Why old superficial conversations drain your vital energy. Why shallow goals no longer sustainably motivate your core being. Your resilient soul isn't fundamentally broken or hopelessly damaged. It's creatively bored, profoundly bored of mindlessly repeating what it never authentically chose in the first place. And now something powerfully sacred is stepping forward to gently remind you of what you consciously did choose long before your physical birth. There are sacred truths that ultimately can't be superficially shared on a platform like YouTube. They're simply too profoundly potent, too easily profoundly misinterpreted, too swiftly easily removed. That's profoundly why we've purposefully created Insights Academy, a carefully curated free newsletter where we can courageously go deeply further into this vital, transformative work. Sign up purposefully through the easily accessible link conveniently located in the description. And for a strictly limited time, you'll also freely receive a valuable digital copy of the legendary Kybalion, a timeless hermetic guide that once thoughtfully served the earliest profound mystery schools. Because authentic awakening isn't shallowly about collecting even more abstract knowledge. It's powerfully about organically unlocking what was authentically hidden. And sometimes that invaluable knowledge is carefully sealed, not merely by physical distance, but powerfully by subtle vibration. You don't superficially need to frantically chase it. You genuinely just need to consciously become authentically still enough to clearly hear it. You've likely been patiently waiting for something tangible to finally begin. A promising new job, a fulfilling relationship, a divinely appointed sign. But maybe this powerful video itself is precisely that eagerly awaited sign. Maybe fundamentally, nothing was ever truly missing in the first place. Maybe you were simply being divinely prepared. Maybe that persistent itch you've been feeling, that subtle craving you couldn't consciously name, wasn't merely simple hunger at all. It was the nascent stirring of ancient memory. A powerful, resonant memory of exactly who you authentically are before the relentless noise, before the pervasive societal script, before the pervasive conditioning wrapped itself tightly around your vibrant voice and tragically convinced you to superficially lower your potent volume just to gain societal acceptance. Thoth doesn't superficially teach merely to inform, he profoundly teaches to authentically awaken. His vital message doesn't passively give cheap answers. It actively, powerfully breaks pervasive societal spells. And you've likely been unknowingly under one, not a dark, overtly demonic curse, but a profoundly socially accepted one, a deceptively hypnotic lullaby that gradually puts your innate power deeply to sleep by subtly calling it selfish, delusional, ultimately unrealistic. But authentic power isn't arrogant braggadocio. Potent power is graceful alignment. And that's what you're increasingly beginning to subconsciously remember, that you're not hopelessly lost. You're profoundly early, wonderfully early to your own becoming, beautifully early to the unique song your resilient soul has patiently waited lifetimes to authentically sing. Before the majestic universe gracefully spoke itself powerfully into elegant form, there was pure vibration, not chaotic noise, not superficial sound, pure vibration, a vibrant rhythm deeply beneath matter, a powerful pulse profoundly older than light itself. The ancient Egyptians wisely didn't believe the tangible world was passively built from superficial chaos. They intuitively knew that before there was anything tangible to touch, to accurately measure, or to distinctly name, there was profound order, and that inherent order moved powerfully through subtle frequency. What you superficially see now as solid and concrete is merely vibration dramatically slowed down. What you currently hear as absolute silence is simply profoundly subtle sound vibrating too delicately for the human ears to typically perceive. Creation powerfully didn't dramatically begin with a sudden jarring bang. It gracefully began with a gentle, sustained hum, and that powerfully resonant hum, still vibrantly vibrating even now, carried profound intention long purposefully before it ever powerfully carried sophisticated language. This is the powerful domain of Thoth, not a mythical, distant, bird-headed deity passively perched on some long-forgotten wall, but the enduring, eternal principle that powerfully transforms raw rhythm into profound, meaningful meaning. He fundamentally isn't merely the superficial god of basic writing. He is the vibrant intelligence that effortlessly translates potent thought into tangible architecture, the currently unseen powerfully into palpable form, not through strained, forceful effort, but through inherent fluid frequency. You've likely been erroneously taught that casual speech is naturally disposable, that basic words are inherently disposable. You've been socially told that you can superficially say whatever you superficially want and magically take it all back later without consequence. But ancient traditions wisely, intimately knew something powerfully different. The genuine words are not simply basic expressions. They are inherently powerful spells. Raw vibration powerfully turned into meaningful meaning. Profound meaning gracefully turned into tangible matter. There is inherently no concept of simply just saying anything without potent consequence. Every single word you consciously speak is fundamentally carving something lasting, deeply opening something potent, or even potentially unintentionally cursing something sensitive, whether you consciously know it or not. That's precisely why the wise ancients intentionally didn't superficially speak quickly or carelessly. They certainly didn't superficially fill comfortable silences for superficial comfort. They deeply revered silence because they profoundly understood what transformative power it actively prepared. Silence wasn't merely an empty void. It was powerfully the vital womb of profound creation, a deeply vibrational stillness where sacred truth carefully gathered powerfully elegant form. And when that conscious stillness gracefully became perceptibly dense enough, it would purposefully take on tangible shape, not superficially through brute action, but profoundly through the consciously uttered powerful word. The word that meaningfully follows profound silence carries enormous authentic power. The superficial word that immediately follows incessant noise is inevitably just yet even more ultimately meaningless noise. So, what if your tangible reality fundamentally isn't primarily shaped by your conscious intentions, your fervent hopes, or your well-laid plans, but instead directly by the unique vibration you constantly hold and the authentic words you organically speak from that powerful inner place? What if the entire intricate universe fundamentally isn't directly listening merely to your superficial desires, but deeply listening instead to your conscious coherence, to the inherent frequency vibrating deeply behind your scattered thoughts, the authentic energy behind your chosen phrases, the essential alignment or misalignment dramatically between what you superficially say and exactly who you authentically are at your vibrant core? It would suddenly powerfully explain why so many people superficially speak eloquently of boundless abundance but somehow still tangibly live deeply in pervasive scarcity. Why they superficially affirm all-encompassing unconditional love but somehow still ultimately settle for lingering fear. Why they superficially speak ardently of unshakable freedom but tangibly act daily from deeply ingrained habit. It's not necessarily that the authentic words themselves necessarily don't magically work, it's profoundly that the vital inner frequency is unfortunately often fractured. Thoth gracefully doesn't blindly respond merely to eloquent vocabulary. He sensitively responds acutely to authentic inner tone, to pure conscious intention, to deep, vibrant congruence. And this is precisely where most individuals sadly get pervasively stuck. They superficially say all the right positive things they think they ultimately want, but they don't authentically say it deeply, powerfully from the profound inner place that can consistently hold it gracefully. They vaguely pray sincerely for crystal clarity but continuously vibrate underlying insidious confusion. They diligently affirm confident belief but superficially speak it aloud only with underlying conscious hesitation. And the intricate universe, honest as a clear mirror, accurately reflects not what they superficially said, but precisely what they deeply, truly meant. There is a subtle underlying language vibrating deep beneath all superficial languages, a vibrant song resonating powerfully beneath all casual speech. And this is precisely the profoundly potent realm that Thoth diligently guards, not because it is intended to be rigidly secret, but because it is inherently sacred. Because if potentially powerful words are prematurely spoken before the authentic inner rhythm is fully aligned, they easily become hollow. They fundamentally lose resonant weight. They ultimately inevitably collapse, not because they were inherently wrong, but because they were unfortunately spoken prematurely too soon. This is powerfully why initiation was historically always preceded by a period of profound silence. Why ancient complex rites historically demanded the earnest student be consciously still, consciously empty, and genuinely authentically prepared. Because what you consciously create powerfully with your chosen words fundamentally isn't merely a fleeting wish. It's a powerful binding contract. It inherently doesn't superficially care if you meant it passively, merely metaphorically. It fundamentally doesn't superficially care if you later superficially take it casually back. Vibrations powerfully inherently echo powerfully. And when intentionally spoken consciously from the vibrant soul, they purposefully rearrange simply absolutely everything. You've likely consciously felt this potent effect authentically before. You've earnestly said something profound authentically from your authentic depths, and consciously watched the intricate world around you actively, gently, subtly shift and change. Maybe it was something as seemingly insignificant as a subtle shift in the atmosphere of a familiar room, a small crack subtly forming in someone's familiar, carefully constructed mask, a strange unfolding sequence of seemingly unlikely events. That definitively wasn't merely passive coincidence. That was active, authentic power, powerfully moving fluidly through authentic resonance. That was sacred speech, subtly slipping gracefully past the persistent, pervasive noise. And if that same authentic, vibrant power genuinely exists deeply within you, then the most vital, compelling question is no longer superficially, how do I precisely say the right thing, but powerfully, what am I authentically vibrating powerfully when I deeply speak? Because the powerful word fundamentally isn't ever the actual true start of authentic, genuine creation. It's the tangible, powerful result of sustained, authentic alignment. And the deeper your profound inner stillness, the clearer your authentic, vibrant frequency. The increasingly clearer your vital, vibrant frequency, the more inevitable your powerful, conscious manifestation. You've superficially said this evocative, magical word before, maybe playfully in casual jest. Maybe while curiously watching a flamboyant stage magician theatrically pulling colorful rabbits from ostentatious hats and delicate scarves from elaborately adorned sleeves. Abracadabra. It carelessly slips thoughtlessly out of casual mouths, casually, like superficial nonsense, like fleeting magic, fundamentally without meaning. But it consciously wasn't always ultimately a hollow trick. Long purposefully before it superficially became a catchy slogan for common children's party tricks and entertaining cartoons, it was a potent, powerful ancient code, a forceful declaration, a vital, potent formula. And those rare individuals who intimately, truly understood it didn't superficially laugh casually. They listened intently, carefully. Abracadabra, Aramaic for I create gracefully as I authentically speak. Not merely a superficial metaphor, not merely pretty poetry, but instead a profound, potent, powerful mechanism. A foundational, potent, powerful truth so timelessly ancient and dynamically potent that the only superficially easy way to carefully silence it was to superficially turn it carelessly into a superficial hollow joke. And unfortunately, it subtly worked. They thoroughly buried it deeply under layers of glittering superficiality and oversized top hats. They carelessly filed it carefully away into the cluttered toy box of popular superficial culture, precisely because what potentially better, tragically superficial way could there ultimately be to erase deeply sacred, impactful knowledge than to actively ridicule it? If individuals casually, outwardly laugh superficially at something so profoundly real, they're unlikely to ever meaningfully look truly, carefully, deeply into it, and therefore the subtly potent spell tragically remained superficially intact. But the valuable, deeply authentic, ancient understanding unfortunately vanished. But fortunately, the enduring underlying vibration didn't ultimately completely vanish. The potent sacred code still meaningfully works precisely because codes fundamentally don't consciously care about fleeting trends. The sacred doesn't casually, superficially dissolve merely because the collective superficial consciousness forgets. Every distinct time someone carelessly says abracadabra, even superficially as a flippant joke, they're unknowingly still authentically declaring, I create gracefully as I authentically speak. They simply definitively don't authentically believe it from the depths of their authentic soul, and that's precisely powerfully why it doesn't effectively, truly, deeply, powerfully work. Not because the profoundly sacred formula is inherently broken, but because the individual speaker simply isn't fully authentically aligned. This is precisely exactly what Thoth diligently guards, not merely rudimentary language superficially, but instead profoundly living language. Words infused that richly carry congruent deep intention, tone, and dynamic frequency, all simultaneously at once, profoundly authentic words that inherently powerfully build authentically, profoundly authentic words that inherently powerfully break powerfully, and profoundly authentic words that powerfully bend deeply tangible reality. You profoundly don't actually need a superficial physical wand. Your powerful mouth is naturally the wand. Your vibrant voice itself is inherently the potent sacred ritual. Every time you consciously speak powerfully with authentic, sustained alignment, you're authentically not merely passively describing your predetermined life. You're instead actively, skillfully, powerfully scripting it authentically. You're authentically not merely passively reacting to the easily overwhelming external world, you're actively authoring the next impactful, powerful page. Consciously, carefully think about all the familiar, common words you effortlessly, consciously use every fleeting day. The easily dismissible throwaway phrases, the almost involuntary, habitual automatic responses. I'm so deeply tired. Nothing meaningfully ever really works out for me. I unfortunately simply can't actually afford that. You carefully say them casually, maybe even merely sarcastically, but Thoth doesn't specifically register fleeting sarcasm. Neither does your impressionable, powerful subconscious mind. Both instead are profoundly always actively listening deeply to the precise inherent signal, not to the easily misleading superficial style. You routinely repeat a consciously chosen phrase sufficiently often, and it effortlessly becomes your individual, potent, vibrant, energetic field, and that unique energetic field then naturally becomes your tangible, manifest reality. This simply fundamentally isn't about promoting artificial toxic positivity. This simply isn't really about superficially pretending that absolutely everything is artificially always perfect. It's fundamentally instead powerfully about proactively recognizing consciously that your habitually chosen vibrant words are in fact powerful instructions, not directly primarily for the intricate universe to immediately superficially follow, but importantly instead for your individual inherent tangible vital energy to skillfully configure itself fully powerfully around. That's precisely powerfully why time-honored sacred ritual has always inherently prominently included powerful language. That's precisely powerfully why potent sacred spells are always carefully, thoughtfully spoken. That's precisely powerfully why basic superficial affirmations often feel inherently hollow when you fundamentally don't deeply truthfully mean them, precisely because they're fundamentally not merely empty words. They're instead powerful, impactful declarations of profound vibrational law. The ancient wise individuals artfully wrote the deeply sacred evocative word abracadabra in the meaningful shape of an inverted vibrant triangle, consciously, meaningfully removing one carefully chosen letter from each intentional line until ultimately only a single powerful point elegantly remained. That symbolic evocative image definitively wasn't merely casual, simple decoration. It was instead deliberate sacred geometry, a potent, vibrant map of intentional collapse, illustrating tangible creations skillfully funneling gracefully, purposefully from the abstract purely into the precise, from intangible, powerful sound purely into tangible, resonant symbol, and from expressive, vibrant symbol gracefully, purely into physical, enduring matter. The geometrically potent, vibrant triangle didn't merely superficially represent dynamic power, it accurately represented subtle precision, unwavering purposeful focus, the potent, perfect moment when raw frequency powerfully, gracefully becomes elegant, enduring form. You simply don't need to consciously become overtly mystical in order to authentically, fundamentally understand all of this. You are already subconsciously doing it consistently. Every separate, distinct time you consciously say something authentic purposefully from your vibrant core and witness palpable reality smoothly adjust accordingly. Every individual separate time you purposefully speak precisely what you intuitively know inherently. To be consciously, powerfully, deeply truthful, and consciously, palpably feel the resulting subtle, meaningful shift gracefully throughout the energy surrounding you. That simply isn't mere passive magic, that powerfully is authentic, tangible coherence. That powerfully is authentic, seamless alignment. That powerfully is the deeply sacred, intricate, universal system gently, subtly revealing itself naturally. But importantly, it cuts both powerfully ways. When you consciously choose to powerfully speak from potent distortion, from insidious fear, from rash reaction, you powerfully consciously also cast that as well. You feed that specific resonant energetic field, not necessarily what you superficially consciously want to tangibly create, but instead accurately what you're unconsciously rehearsing, and then you perhaps later wonder precisely why you repeatedly keep consciously experiencing the same unwanted negative patterns tangibly. Why your life seems to continuously loop repetitively. Why the same seemingly inescapable persistent life lessons keep circling back frustratingly to haunt you. That isn't mere insurmountable negative karma, it's conscious vibrational feedback. Abracadabra fundamentally isn't simply a superficially potent word to merely consciously remember. It's instead a profound guiding principle to consciously powerfully live by intentionally. A sustained, constant reminder that precisely what you consciously say is in reality a detailed, accurate blueprint. That the potent, vibrant language you use is a direct, powerful reflection of your inherent powerful beliefs. And importantly, that all your vibrant beliefs are merely unconscious echoes of your foundational, inherent vibration. This is precisely what Thoth was earnestly trying consistently to powerfully teach all along. Not that you necessarily, specifically, consciously always need some better extensive vocabulary superficially, but you powerfully instead need authentically far deeper conscious alignment. Because when you truly, powerfully, consciously speak confidently, fluidly from that authentically congruent, genuine place, you simply don't artificially need to consciously force absolutely anything. You definitely don't even artificially need to aggressively try to consciously, superficially, forcefully convince absolutely anyone. The carefully refined, genuine frequency inherently does all the profound, genuine work fluidly for you. The thoughtfully chosen, vibrant, authentic word elegantly becomes pure, graceful flesh. The carefully cultivated, potent idea effortlessly becomes deeply compelling, powerful architecture, and you powerfully begin to intuitively remember precisely what the wise, ancient individuals intimately, always gracefully knew. That fundamentally, absolutely nothing is inherently more magically, profoundly powerful than a human individual who speaks eloquently, intentionally, gracefully from their authentic, vibrant soul. There's a clearly valid reason why so much valuable ancient knowledge was consciously, carefully hidden, artfully sealed, gracefully behind elegant symbols, immersive allegorical stories, and enduring potent stone. Definitely not because it was inherently simply superficially elitist, definitely not because it was artificially, intentionally, deliberately meant to be specifically artificially exclusive. But instead, fundamentally, because it historically powerfully had the dynamic potential to be highly dangerous in the possession of unskilled, unconscious hands. Genuinely sacred, authentic power fundamentally isn't arbitrarily simply granted. It's beautifully, consciously, actively mirrored powerfully. You definitely don't magically unlock it merely by superficially decoding a potent spell or by superficially memorizing a complicated ritual. You authentically unlock it naturally instead by proactively, consciously becoming a conscious being who can confidently, skillfully, gracefully, tangibly carry it intentionally, powerfully, without tragically experiencing internal collapse. That's precisely powerfully why Thoth authentically isn't simply a superficial teacher in the modern traditional superficial sense. He does not rigidly, consciously instruct. He gently, purposefully, elegantly reflects powerfully. And what he gracefully, thoughtfully, precisely, elegantly reflects is your own existing authentic readiness. The poignant, historical, ancient story of the legendary Book of Thoth fundamentally isn't merely an empty myth. It's instead a powerful, potent warning, a dynamically reflective mirror, consciously, elegantly wrapped, carefully, powerfully, inaccessible allegory. In the powerfully evocative ancient tale, the potent ancient book explicitly contains profoundly powerful spells that purposefully allowed one skillfully to fluidly speak in the distinct, authentic language of all individual vibrant animals, and to consciously control all the dynamic forces of nature, skillfully, gracefully, but unfortunately, tragically. Every individual who curiously found the ancient book too soon, unfortunately, prematurely paid a harsh, terrible price. Neferkapta tragically, painfully, completely lost his entire family. Setna unfortunately nearly permanently lost his vibrant, enduring soul. And it definitively wasn't because they carelessly used the potent book incorrectly or wrongly, but profoundly, tragically, precisely because they simply weren't yet sufficiently skillfully, sufficiently tangibly, adequately prepared for the overwhelming weight of precisely what it powerfully revealed. The potent spells themselves did not directly, immediately destroy them. Their own internal conscious misalignment naturally, inevitably, ultimately did. This subtle point is exactly what most people carelessly miss when they fervently chase artificially superficial power. They erroneously believe that the knowledge superficially itself is the explicit primary goal, the elusive enticing secret, the profoundly potent spell, the cleverly devised elaborate technique, but instead the truly wise initiated understood deeply that the priceless knowledge authentically reveals you. It powerfully, inherently amplifies your existing vibrant frequency. If you are authentically coherent fluidly, it gracefully, consciously elevates you. If you are unfortunately fragmented, it unfortunately fractures you deeply, even further powerfully. Authentic power doesn't inherently corrupt inherently. It instead powerfully clarifies gracefully. And that precise dynamic specifically is what thoughtfully makes profoundly sacred, insightful knowledge so profoundly potentially dangerous. In a tangible worldly world that actively values superficial external speed shallowly over authentic internal depth, public theatrical performance artificially over authentic mindful presence, we are unfortunately unconsciously taught to earnestly artificially want quantifiable results immediately, instantly, to carelessly download complex authentic wisdom artificially without diligent preparation or sustained discipline. But in the time-honored, genuinely sacred traditions, there was consistently simply no available easy artificial shortcut. Definitely not because the ancient gatekeepers were simply cruel, but powerfully instead because they consciously, deeply, intimately knew profoundly exactly what was currently truly at stake. They consciously, intimately knew precisely what sadly inevitably happens when someone carelessly speaks vibrant words that their inherently potent spirit simply cannot adequately, tangibly hold. The resulting deeply authentic, powerful echo doesn't merely carelessly, superficially disappear conveniently. It instead tragically, inevitably, forcefully, powerfully returns purposefully and inevitably. It deliberately, actively reorganizes absolutely everything gracefully around that sustained underlying imbalance, and if the individual vibrant soul simply isn't inherently sufficiently consciously resilient and strong enough to constantly remain consciously truly centered, that powerful echoing return sadly, inevitably collapses the delicate overall structure. It's exactly precisely the same now in our current worldly times. People casually, superficially read one carefully chosen, inspiring line purposefully from a legitimately sacred, potent text and carelessly, superficially turn it quickly into a fleeting, superficial trend. They mindlessly chant consciously chosen ancient words they themselves simply don't inherently deeply comprehend, invoking complex, potent, vibrant energies they definitively cannot tangibly, consciously, actively sustain, and then predictably later they consciously wonder precisely why their carefully constructed life starts to painfully, inevitably unravel frustratingly. That isn't merely casual punitive punishment, it's ultimately conscious exposure. The encompassing, intricately woven conscious energetic system is not carelessly, superficially punishing you specifically. It's carefully, powerfully responding accurately, consistently to the sustained, vibrant signal that you consciously are actively currently sending. And when that consistent, vibrant signal is consciously, powerfully amplified intentionally, tangibly by potent, sacred, vibrant power, it either powerfully, gracefully solidifies purposefully or unfortunately, inevitably implodes destructively. Thoth elegantly doesn't carelessly, superficially simply give you power. He instead accurately, elegantly reveals consciously whether you are authentically, currently in a conscious state to actively, effectively receive it. Whether your unique heart, your potent mind, your powerful words, and your sustained willpower are consciously, authentically aligned harmoniously. Whether you are consistently, consciously speaking, authentically, truthfully, consciously about precisely what you are proactively ready to vividly, consciously live consciously. Because when the dynamic chosen word is consciously no longer merely transient sound, but instead stable, enduring structure, your entire powerful life purposefully becomes a conscious, powerful, authentic echo. There's simply no skillfully faking it credibly, no cleverly bypassing shortcuts tangibly, and no effectively artificial, spiritual, theatrical performance that can accurately, effectively, completely mask sustained, prolonged incoherence. You either powerfully, truly, consciously, authentically are, or you powerfully are not, and ultimately conscious life accurately, gracefully, actively responds precisely accordingly. But this powerfully simply isn't about artificially striving for perfect performance. It's powerfully instead genuinely about sustained, diligent preparation. Preparation definitely isn't about sheer accumulated abstract knowledge. It's instead gracefully about inherent integrity. The profound, sustained, continuous, harmonious alignment powerfully between precisely what you authentically, consciously, genuinely believe, exactly what you consciously, powerfully, authentically, consistently feel, exactly what you consciously, powerfully, authentically, consistently speak, and exactly what you consciously, powerfully, authentically, consistently, proactively do. That specifically is the profoundly genuine, real sacred ritual. That specifically is the profoundly genuine, real invocation of enduring, transformative power. When those distinct four potent pillars are purposefully, elegantly aligned and carefully balanced fluidly, you won't consciously need any additional specific artificial sacred spells. You won't consciously need any additional specific artificial profound mysticism. You proactively, tangibly are the all-encompassing spell. Your very conscious being tangibly becomes the sustaining, conscious, powerful ritual. Your mindful, potent presence gracefully, effortlessly changes the conscious room tangibly. This accurately, gracefully is exactly powerfully why profound silence was historically deemed profoundly sacred, precisely because those uniquely insightful individuals who were definitively not currently tangibly ready were skillfully, gently taught tangibly not to consciously speak, not artificially to actively, deliberately suppress their vital expression, but skillfully instead proactively to consciously protect them gracefully from the potentially devastating repercussions. Speech wasn't artificially, superficially seen as an inherent guaranteed right. It was carefully, thoughtfully understood to be a tangible, sustaining, serious responsibility. It was deeply understood intuitively that genuinely chosen words have sustaining, resonant, inherent weight tangibly, and that when spoken passionately from sustained misalignment, they don't simply easily, superficially fall flat. They sadly instead often fall tragically, very powerfully hard. And they often tragically, potentially, consciously also take the ill-prepared speaker fully with them. You've likely thoughtfully felt the delicate conscious edges of this impactful dynamic intentionally before, purposefully saying something you superficially thought consciously, you fully consciously, genuinely believed in, only consciously to tangibly, consciously, palpably feel the conscious resulting unsettling dissonance, consciously, subtly ripple unnervingly through your unique conscious body. Carefully, thoughtfully making conscious, superficial, empty promises you weren't consciously, deeply, emotionally, tangibly, genuinely, meaningfully committed to proactively fulfilling, consistently, mindfully, thoughtfully, consciously, tangibly speaking, surface-level, vibrant, positive affirmations you simply fundamentally didn't deeply, tangibly, sincerely, genuinely trust at your vibrantly authentic conscious core. That unsettling, dynamic, tangible tension, that sustained, energetic resistance, that tangibly is your powerful, conscious soul purposefully, gently rejecting the imposed superficial societal script. That tangibly, gracefully is your powerful, authentic, unique, vibrant, conscious soul skillfully, powerfully, gently warning you, this sustained, conscious statement isn't your uniquely assigned authentic line. And therefore the enduring, profound lesson of the historical ancient book of Thoth gracefully, carefully remains. Not carelessly, simply as empty, superficial folklore, superficially. Not carelessly, simply as superficial fantasy. But powerfully instead as a vitally enduring, living, guiding principle. That sacred knowledge tangibly, consciously is not casually simply a free gift to claim easily. It thoughtfully, powerfully instead is a profoundly reflective mirror to gaze deeply, thoughtfully into. And when you tangibly, consciously, tangibly, carefully stand before it consciously, you tangibly, accurately, simply don't superficially, selectively, easily, simply see what you consciously, actively, selectively want to see. You gracefully see instead exactly, consciously, precisely, powerfully what you presently, currently, truthfully, authentically are. The sustained, pertinent, underlying, potent question isn't simply whether you currently are deemed tangibly worthy sufficiently. The meaningfully sustaining core question instead, tangibly, thoughtfully, is whether you confidently, tangibly, skillfully, presently are genuinely, sufficiently, truly, tangibly ready, precisely because conscious, meaningful speech consciously power. So to sum it all up, the journey with Thoth isn't about learning new tricks or chasing external validation. It's about remembering who you truly are at your core, aligning your inner vibration with your spoken word, and realizing the incredible power you already possess to shape your reality through conscious presence. It's about becoming the living embodiment of sacred truth. We'd absolutely love to hear your thoughts on this. What resonated most with you? Do you have any questions about how to apply these principles in your own life? Leave a comment below and let's start a conversation. And if this message has resonated with you and you want to dive deeper into this kind of wisdom, be sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on future videos exploring these profound concepts. We're so grateful to share this journey of awakening with you.